Thanks very much for joining us. Turn off African News with me, Georgie Cavan-Smith. Tonight, those following the case of a Rwandan ex-spy chief accused of complicity in the 1994 genocide wait eagerly for news of the Paris jury's decision. Pascal Simbikangwa's last appeal to those who judge him sees him call on their conscience. Also, France expresses its impatience with the European Union over its promise in January to deliver a peacekeeping mission to Central African Republic to back up French and African troops already on the ground, trying to stem escalating sectarian violence there. And whilst leaders from across the world try to settle on a political or military solution to the bloodshed in Central African Republic, here in France, a small troop of actors from the troubled African nation are also trying to make a difference with their latest show. First up, here in Paris, after 5.5 weeks, the jury is tonight deliberating in France's first trial of a suspect in the Rwandan genocide. In his final appeal on Friday, former spy chief Pascal Simbikangwa insisted that he was innocent of complicity in genocide and war crimes during the 1994 atrocities, claiming that he never even saw any of the dead bodies that littered Rwanda's streets after the mass killing of around 800,000 Tutsis and moderate Hutus. France has been criticised for taking so long to play a role in prosecuting those with ties to the genocide living within its borders. Many following today's proceedings are keen for a line to be drawn under Simbikangwa's case.
Pascal Simbikangwa needs to be judged like any other citizen before the criminal court. He should not be treated any differently. Like he said, he needs to be treated as a human being and nothing more. That's all he's asking.
We're hoping for harsh punishment, one that will send a message to Simbikangwa, to show him that we weren't fooled by his denial of involvement in a genocide, and a strong message for similar trials in the future.
While there were hours of gunfire and explosions in Maiduguri early Friday as soldiers fought off Islamist insurgents attacking the city. Extremist fighters suspected of being from Nigerian sect Boko Haram targeted army barracks, trying to free suspected militants being held there. The city's university and homes of government workers were also hit. The military claims to have killed several of the attackers and succeeded in repelling the raid. Now, Central African Republic's parliaments started drafting a constitution aimed at restoring peace. Meanwhile, thousands of French and African troops are already there trying to stop bloody revenge attacks that have driven tens of thousands of Muslims out of the country. Now, that was sparked by a short-lived but bloody takeover by Muslim rebels last year. Well, today, France angrily warned the European Union that its promise to mobilise a peacekeeping mission by next week is behind schedule, because some European countries haven't provided the troops and resources pledged. Well, Arnaud Danjeu is a French Euro MP for the UMP. He tells us that expectations for a quick deployment of the European Union's troops was always unrealistic.
I think first that there was a huge misunderstanding between the French and the others. The French ministers, the very French minister who are complaining today that the process is too slow, were the first to announce a month and a half ago that the EU operation would be deployed in Central Africa within less than a month, which is totally impossible. It has never happened before. When you want to set up an EU military operation, you need at least 3 months before the announcement, the political agreement, and the effective deployment on the ground. Having said that, there is a problem indeed. Do the European countries really want to commit troops for an operation in Central Africa? And we can have our doubts, indeed. Many countries do not feel that the situation in Central Africa, as tragic as it is, constitutes a kind of a threat to our security. So they believe that there are other priorities now, especially when we talk about Ukraine. So you have many northern and eastern European countries who were at first ready to commit troops, who are now more reluctant, more hesitant, because their public opinion also is really wondering why they should put a priority in Central Africa when you have when you have this situation going on in Ukraine.
Arnaud Danjou there, the president of the Defence Commission. Well, in other news, a former South African police officer told the judge in the murder trial of Oscar Pistorius that he was furious to discover two of the athlete's watches went missing from the crime scene. The court was also today shown a photo of Mr. Pistorius in blood-covered shorts. Now, he denies murdering his girlfriend Riva Steenkamp last year, saying that he mistook her for an intruder. The case resumes on Monday. After a decade of stellar growth, Ethiopia has been hailed by some as an African lion. It's an impressive turnaround for the country, and whereas much of Africa's boom has been driven by nations' mineral wealth, Ethiopia's growth sectors have been agriculture, manufacturing, and transport. And that means more infrastructure and more building.
Drilling across Addis Ababa, construction projects have surged throughout the Ethiopian capital. Investors inject money into private building sites like this, combining private apartments and offices. Some also take part in state construction projects for new roads, high-voltage power lines, and rail tracks.
The basic engine blocks of economic transformation are the infrastructure. The Achilles heel of Africa, if you've seen, is power, lack of road networks, lack of the basic needs that you need to transform an economy.
According to the government, growth has reached 10%. The IMF estimates it's closer to 7%. To boost construction, the government offers tax benefits to those who invest in the field. Money is also coming from abroad, even though foreigners cannot own property in Ethiopia. Chinese loans have allowed the government to launch one of its main projects, Addis Abeba's metro network.
This is the most attractive investment opportunity in the country for the time being, since we do not have a financial market that is working properly.
4 million jobs were created last year in Ethiopia, a country of more than 80 million. But unemployment is still high, 25% overall, 17% in urban areas. To lower those figures, the government must encourage other fields, making the economy more diverse.
As the world's political elite wrangle out a way forward in trying to bring an end to Central African Republic's crisis, here in Paris, a small troupe of artists are playing their own part in trying to bring about reconciliation in their homeland. Lingua Terre came to France after the cultural centre they ran in Bangui was destroyed, but even from afar, they hope to make a difference. Ben Barnier has more.
They call to their gods for help as their homeland is torn apart by violence and hate. Sango the Encounter, a Central African play currently showcasing in France. The actors, Muslims and Christians, sending a strong message of peace while their communities are fighting and killing each other.
Me, am I a Christian, a Muslim? I just say I'm a Central African because religions were imported into our region through colonization and through conquests. We received these religions, but we already had a religion, animism. We had gods, we prayed to the trees.
In our troupe we have Muslims, Christians and others. Some members don't even have a religion. But this doesn't stop us from performing together. Our example is the one Central Africans should follow.
Written in 1992, the play was recently updated to make it even more compelling, adding to the script references to machetes, the weapon of choice of fighters in the country's recent crisis.
These days, the machete symbolizes death and atrocities. Our ancestors did not teach us this violence. We're not saying that it's the anti-Balaka or Seleka's fault. We're just trying to get symbols on stage to show people what's happening in our country, to tell them that the path we're taking isn't the right one.
After their tour in France, the actors are hoping to embark on a caravan for peace, taking their hopes for reconciliation into remote parts of the Central African Republic.
that wraps up African news from me for now. I'll be back though with more in about 45 minutes. Take care.
The Observers.
Take a new look at the news. Eyewitness accounts from those at the heart of the action, all over the world. Exclusive videos you've never seen before, all verified by our journalists.
The Observers, en France 24 and France24.com.